right, so with that, it's time now to sail through the changing customer behaviors and also preparing those very mindful strategies for the CX. As Abraham Lincoln once rightly said that, if I'm given 6 hours to chop a tree, I would dedicate 4 to sharpen my axe. So with that, join me in experientially welcoming a leader that we have on board. Let's welcome the country head, India Consumer Health from Bayer, Mr. Sandeep Verma. If you're all set, it's over to you.
Good morning, Shikha, and good to see you here. And thank you so much for having me on this platform. Good morning, everyone. I hope everybody is staying safe and healthy, you and your families, and everybody is vaccinated or on the way to getting vaccinated. So the topic that has been given to me is sailing through the changing customer behaviors and preparing better strategies for CX. The way I have divided this presentation is that I actually made it into two parts. The first part, we will talk about the changing customer behavior, so the big trends which are impacting customer behavior. And in the second half of the presentation, I'll be talking to you about some inclusions in the strategies that we are doing, and we also recommend some of the other businesses do that. So just to summarize, these are the 4 key consumer trends that I'll be talking to you guys about. These are by no means exhaustive. These are just the top of the mind, or you can say the easiest ones to work on. Some of these will seem like very, very obvious to all of us, and yet often we end up ignoring the most obvious things. So these are the 4 that I'll be talking to you guys about. First one being economic impact, second one being shock to loyalty, third one being the rise of the home body economy, and of course the last, but definitely not the least, the rise of digital. So without much further ado, let me just get into the first trend, which is the whole economic impact and the shift to values and value and essentials that we are seeing amongst all the customers. So in general, the Indian consumer, has been one who's been very focused on value and wants to spend more on essentials than on anything else. But there has been a much further shift to this in the last 1.5 years. And we believe that this trend is here to stay. What has also happened is that the definition of discretionary categories has also changed. There are many items which have moved from discretionary to essentials, and there are many in the essentials category which have moved from, let's say, the middle rung or the bottom rung to the top rung. So, for example, health and hygiene is now absolutely at the top rung of the essentials. Among discretionary categories, products like masks have now made a move into essentials and into the grocery list of the households. And the other thing that we are seeing is that, which is similar to what it was earlier, is that while there has been a drop in spend on discretionary categories, the intent of the consumer to spend during festivals like Diwali, for example, or even during the wedding season, which is quite a prolonged period of time in India, that still continues to be high. And in fact, we are seeing a lot of pent-up demand across some of the categories, like travel, for example, where a lot of us are indulging in what is being labeled as revenge travel. So it's a mix of things on this particular trend. The next one is actually the most interesting one, and probably the most difficult one for brands to sort of work on. And like I said earlier, Indian market in general is the most highly price sensitive and the most value conscious buyer that we have in India. But this has gone through a step change. This has almost increased exponentially. And hence, given the consumers an even bigger reason, value has become an even bigger reason for the consumers to try out new brands or even new places to shop. Convenience and availability were always important factors earlier also. But now, during the lockdown, of course, convenience and availability were probably the most important. But even post the lockdown now, we are seeing that these continue to be more important than earlier. Now, this has a very strong effect on brands which were commanding some amount of brand premium. And this has forced the companies and the brands to relook into their justification for charging premiums over the value which they're offering to the consumers. Yeah, the third key trend that we are seeing, again, something that all of us are fully aware of, is the rise of what we are calling the home body economy, where home has literally become the new hub for everything you do, whether it is working or it is socializing or it is entertaining yourself, or just spending quality time with the family, home is the new hub, and which has led to a completely changed role of the home as well as the homemaker in India. For many decades and for many centuries, probably the homemaker has been very ignored in India, but all of that is changing now. And this has also led to the growth of community and the demand for localization. As as this homebody economy is developing, people want products to be personalized and localized as per their own needs. Then the other thing we're seeing is that the consumers intend to work or to engage with things which take them out of home has reduced a lot. So for shared services and activities like going to theaters, going to cinemas, going to public parks, a lot of it is reduced because of the pandemic, of course. But we see that this trend might continue for a longish period of time. And the fourth one, and I don't need to explain this at all, is the easiest one of the lot, which is the rise of digital, or what we're calling the flight to digital. So from buying stuff to consuming stuff for entertainment, to buying your groceries, to buying your clothes, durables, everything is now, a lot of it is now on digital and here to stay. So these would be the four key trends that we are observing, and these four trends have led to four changes that we believe that each of the businesses should add to theirs. So the first one, the first addition to the business strategy that we're calling is, or the way we've labeled it is, give this black swan a wing to fly. Give this black swan wings to fly. We all know that this is a black swan event which is happening in India, which is happening, sorry, globally. And what we are trying to say is that we need to identify the new relevant beliefs which have come up, and we need to strengthen some of them. So essentially, the way to do it is to try and delight the consumers by new experiences in order to change their long-held beliefs and make them even more willing to repeat the behavior. So this is basically a very unique moment in time which companies can utilize to reinforce and shape behavioral shifts to sort of position their products and make their brands better for the new normal. I'll explain this by, through an example, make it easier. The whole fitness market has seen an exponential growth. So home exercise machines, wearables, whatever you want to call it. In the beginning, right when the pandemic started and some of the people had started using it, consumers were unsure. They were skeptical about whether these instruments or this home exercise would be able to meet their exercise needs. But now that belief has changed as we see this market continuing to grow, and because this belief has changed, consumers agree and believe that home exercise can actually satisfy all of their exercise needs. So this is a very good example of how they identified and strengthened a new relevant belief for their category. Second one is how we are labeling it as, don't get the tail to wag the dog. So essentially, if you want to ensure a continuity of the new habits which have been formed, do that by making your products a part of the consumer's daily habit using contextual cues. So habits typically form when consumers associate a certain behavior with a particular context, and eventually that behavior becomes automatic. So to help turn behaviors into habits, companies should identify right cues that drive the behavior. And let me give you a very simple example over here. The usage of masks, as we want to try and drive the usage of masks by everyone in a family who goes out, I think the way to do it is by keeping the mask near the door. Yeah, as you leave the house, you will see a mask lying right over there, and it will then become a habit to wear a mask as soon as you exit the door. So this is what is called a contextual cue, in which your product is playing a very important role and just being a part of the overall thing which the consumer is doing. So I think product packaging and marketing which reinforces these kind of behaviors will help and can help consumers sustain this habit. New experiences should offer incremental value for a change to become permanent, and poor experiences can actually result in a very rapid reversal. And again, let me give you an example on the poor experience part. The hand sanitizers category in India went through almost a 1400% growth. And everybody from a paint company to a cement company to a TMT steel company, everybody entered this market. What has happened now is that less than 10% of these brands remain, and the market has come crashing down, the hand sanitizers market. Why? Because a lot of these companies did not give proper emphasis to the quality of the product and hence the product experience. So I think somebody before me was talking about this frictionless experience. So this was literally a frictionful experience, because when you use these products, your hands would start to burn. And that's why a lot of consumers have moved out of the hand sanitizer category itself, simply because the product experience was so poor. A third one is what we label it as take the horse to the well. So nudge the consumers towards towards new habit formation. Essentially, you can drive consumers toward new habits through product innovation, which can remove barriers for trial. And I'll give you another example over here. The entire vitamins, minerals, and supplements market has risen a lot in this pandemic. And what the companies are doing is that most of these supplements were earlier available just as the form of a tablet, which the consumers did not like to consume because it was like medicine. What the companies are doing now is that they are launching these supplements in more and better formats, like gummy bears, for example, or effervescent tablets, which you can just pop in the water. It turns into a very nice tasting drink, and you can have that product. Now, this is called nudging the consumers towards new habit formation by removing the barriers to trial. Another example over here is the e-commerce sector, which saw so many new users coming into the sector during the pandemic, and most of them have actually remained because this sector not only offers availability, it also offers time saving and a wider product range. Again, a barrier removed. A converse example of this, or opposite example, is the telehealth segment, which rose dramatically, but it has fallen down simply because of poor customer experiences of online consultations or lack of online consultations, which they actually got. And this is again more specific to India itself right now. And the last, probably the one which again is linked to the previous session also, I think the speaker was talking about this, is how we label it as forever is composed of nows. So every small moment is happening now, and hence more proactive and agile analysis of consumer behaviors and consumer beliefs is required. We are in a state globally where consumer beliefs and habits are still evolving. People are still reprioritizing or prioritizing what they want to do with their life, how they want to live their lives. And this will continue to happen over the next 2 years. And hence, we need to be very closely in touch with what the consumers are doing and thinking. In the past, most of the companies used to have these high-level UNS survey, which used to happen once a year, or maybe HNA studies, which used to happen once in 4 years, and then brand trackers, which used to happen once in 6 months. But while these are still important to do, it is more important to keep a closer eye on the evolution of consumer behaviors on a more regular basis. So essentially, the point I'm making is that digital data gathering and monitoring techniques, which can help us stay in touch with the consumer through your social listening or through any other such tool, will become more and more important. We are already using a lot of these, and these will help the companies to understand the emerging behaviors and contextual cues, leading to more and more moment marketing context and more moment marketing things that the brands will get into. I think there is a whole session that you can hold just on this particular point on digital data gathering and staying in the now. So those are the 4 new additions which I just spoke to you about, and this is a very quick summary of these 4. First one being, how do you identify and strengthen the new beliefs? Ensure a continuity of new habits by using contextual cues. Nudge the consumers through new habit formation by removing the barriers to trial, and a much more proactive and agile analysis of the consumer behavior, which is changing and is evolving over a period of time. I think this session itself can take 1 full day, but because I had only 15 minutes to talk to you guys, I've just summarized very quickly the 4 key trends and the 4 key actionable changes to the business strategies that we have done, and we expect the business to do as well, as it's going to benefit all of you. So with that, I come to a closure of my session. I would be very happy to interact with any of you individually. So feel free to contact me on any of these points through my social media handle or through ET itself. Thank you so much. Shikha, over to you.
Sandeep, thank you for rendering that special address around the critical cog in the CX wheel, the business strategies as you talked about, and right just there in time. Thank you for keeping it prompt, simple, and understandable. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be heading into a discussion now that will be about building roadmaps from the experience journey from during to post pandemic, because we do have a kaleidoscope to refer to. Allow allow us to be right back on your screens as I get connected with my speakers and the discussants for the next panel discussion that's coming up.